The Gauteng Education Department has received over 300,000 online grade 8 applications for admission to public schools. Now, although no major problems were reported, some parents did say that they experienced challenges. For an update now on the different phases of the online registration, we're joined by the head of the Education Department in Gauteng, Edward Mosuwe, who talks to us now. HOD, thank you very much for your time. So of the 300,000 applications that you have received, how many of those have been successfully placed in schools?
Good morning, and thank you very much for inviting us to come and clarify. And maybe let me indicate that with the 300,000 applications that would have been received, it means that a parent or a guardian would have applied to more than one school. So to this extent, where you see that over 300,000 applications were made, you would find that one person would have applied to more than one school as it's required by policy. Remember, in the current context, you can apply either using your home address, you can apply to a school because there's a sibling already at that school, you can apply also using your work address or if you are within a 30-kilometer radius or beyond a 30-kilometer radius of a school. So to the extent that we have received over 300,000, it begins to show that many parents have taken advantage of the options and the choices that are there in terms of the number of times that they can make an application. But what does that translate to? This translates to an indication that in phase one, we can now confirm that of that 300,000, there's about 145,000 unique applications. So if we are to be counting individual heads, and these are the number of grade 8s that we have received in phase one. But in phase two, we can also, and remember, phase two opened for those that were not in the public education system, that were coming outside of the public education system. And we only have about 11,500 of those. So in total, you could argue that we have received just over 160,000 applications, individual applications for learners that need to be placed for grade 8. Yeah. We are also quite excited because we also, not only have we opened for grade 8, we also open up for the newcomers into the system. We're waiting to welcome our grade 1s. At this point in time, we have just over 85,000 of grade 1s, and this would be individual applications. So 85,000 young people have been registered in our system at this point in time. And the system will close on the 8th of October.
As you will know, time is of the essence when it comes to this. Parents start to panic when the children are not placed or when they don't have finality as to which school will their children go. When do you think you can have finality on the placement of whoever is still outstanding at this stage?
Thank you very much. I think what parents need to do firstly is that now that they have applied, we ask all parents and guardians firstly to upload all the required documents, be they birth certificate, confirmation of home address, if it's a grade 1 child, that they would upload their immunization cards. The totality and the completion of the documents that are supplied would make it easier and possible for the schools and district offices to finalize the admission process. At this point in time, nobody has received confirmation because all these details as it respects to documents that have been submitted are being verified. And we will start with to give parents information and confirmation of where their young people have been placed from the 15th of October. And we therefore urge any parent who would not have uploaded documents to do so immediately, because when the system closes on the 8th, from the 15th of October, placement processes will start and parents will start to receive information about where their children have been accepted.
Yeah. HOD. The question I want to ask you now is, it sort of moves away from the online registration process. It's about the scourge of corruption. Earlier this month, you would have heard your MEC quoted in the media as saying that he is consulting officials who are implicated in PPE corruption. How far are those consultations, to your knowledge?
Well, you recall that we received the first referrals from the SIU who were investigating the matter that was brought to the department's attention. Having received that, the department was then able to appoint an independent law firm to ensure that the processes can be dealt with independently. Post the appointment of the law firm, they did an analysis of the evidence that was there. And to that extent, the law firm has come back to indicate that 3 senior officials in the department would have to answer to a charge. And to that extent, I'm aware that those officials were issued with letters of a charge on the 22nd of this month. And we have a senior counsel that has been appointed by the state attorney to preside over the case, and I know that the first hearing will be on the 5th of October.
So those 3 officials, HOD, are they still in the employ of the department, or have they been placed on suspension pending the investigations?
At this point in time, remember the investigations were done externally by the SIU, and the SIU has indicated that they have concluded the investigations, and to that extent, there was no indication that their presence at work would actually interfere with the investigation, and to that extent, those officials are currently at work because the evidence before us suggests that there was no level of interference that would come in this particular regard. And this was the guidance that we received from the attorneys that are dealing with this matter at this point.
You will understand my next question, HOD, is it has to do with those who may potentially turn witness to some of the investigations that are going to be ongoing. When you say that it may not pose a potential risk that the implicated officials remain at work while investigations are ongoing, we already have a story of Ms. Babita Deokaran, who was in a different department, the health department, who was essentially assassinated. I'm simply asking here about the department's wisdom in keeping these officials, implicated officials, on the job, whilst those who may potentially turn witness will still be sharing the same offices with them.
Well, maybe let me clarify at this point that what the evidence that we have had not suggested any levels of corruption from what we had been given and the charge that they are all facing. Should it be that there would be a charge in that regard, I'm sure the law will take its course accordingly. But at this point in time, we are awaiting the processes to take place from the 5th of October, when the charges will be put forward and will be presided over. And we hope that should there be any indication of new information that emerges, we will deal with it at that particular point in time. But as for now, with all the guidance that we have received from all the legal advice and other, and even from the SIU in terms of having concluded the investigation, just to give an indication that for the charge that they are facing, there has been confirmation from the SIU that there will no longer be any investigation as it relates to this matter or to the charge for which they have to answer. Any other investigations that may be dealt with are not within the purview of the department. They are outside the department, and maybe they're being held by law enforcement agencies. But should we receive additional new information that would suggest that additional action must be taken, we will oblige in that particular regard. So to that extent, I can confirm that we are in the process of cooperating in this particular process, because ethical conduct is what we are also wanting to ensure that we always uphold in this particular regard.
Are you aware of the charges, therefore, that are being investigated against these 3 officials?
I'm aware that at this point in time, there had been, and as it had already been reported previously, that there is a charge of not following proper supply chain processes, and that is the charge that they'll be facing.
All right. And perhaps as we conclude, the 431 million rand, this had to do with those schools that were sanitized unnecessarily, if you like, because everyone was on lockdown. When all is said and done, HOD, this amount of money that was approved by the department for these schools to be sanitized, the ultimate authority when it comes to releasing funds in your department is yourself. Are your hands clean?
Well, to the extent that there has been no indication from the law enforcement agencies and all those that have given an investigation and that I'm continuing to talk to you, it suggests that there's been nothing found untoward from the processes that I had put in place. And maybe let me clarify something, because I think this matter has been put out of context. When schools reopened at the beginning post the hard lockdown, the department did not spend the 431. The 431 would have arisen only after there were learners at school. So at the beginning of the process, when schools, shortly after the hard lockdown, when schools reopened, we were able to get donations as well as having made transfers to schools for just normal cleaning process. The decontamination process that took place only after learners had gone back to school, one. Two, after there had been positive cases that were reported at that point, and to the extent that we can demonstrate that for every decontamination process that took place, there was a case that was reported. So to the extent that there was a disinfection or decontamination taking place in a particular school, we can confirm that there was a positive case of a positive COVID case that the school reported, and therefore the department responded accordingly. So to that extent, I think there has always been an indication that decontamination or disinfection was not necessary, and we hold a different view, because we were following the standard operating procedures that were out there, and it was only on the basis of cases that were reported. And I think the sooner we all get to understand that particular issue, it would assist all of us.
Head of the Education Department in Gauteng, Mr. Edward Mosuwe, thank you very much for your time, sir.